Here we go. Thanksgiving mailbag. Buckle up. I'm a 30-year-old guy, an Obama millennial lib. Dad voted for Obama, mom for Romney. My parents and I are devastated by the Trump win. My two brothers are not devastated. Older brother's at Thanksgiving. He's your classic Ivy League educated Ben Shapiro listening anti-woke, anti-Trump conservative who made the transition to solid Trump supporter. The policies, not the personality. He brings in real money, bought a great 7-figure house, no economic anxiety. I have trouble talking to him about politics and anything politics adjacent. We used to mix it up, but 2020 got too intense. He said he thinks Biden won, does not believe the election lies, but he told my mom he voted for Trump again this year, and he votes in a swing state. We've lost touch a bit, no outward animosity, but the weirdness is below the surface when we get together, et cetera, makes me sad. Et cetera, makes me sad. The question, how do you suggest I handle Thanksgiving? I'll be with him in a few days and the election will come up. My boomer dad will say something. Do I say little nothing, change the topic, happy warrior? Do I get pretty real? Not sure how to balance the disrespectful devil on one shoulder and the Obama pluralism angel on the other shoulder. I had a similar question from another reader. Do you have tips for engaging with people like my brother, who watches fake news or non-news, Patrick Bet-David, Joe Rogan, etc., knows literally nothing about what is actually happening, but loves to instigate discussions. He then shuts down and goes into denial anger mode when confronted with counterpoints. I'm actually skipping Thanksgiving with him this year for that reason, but have many other meals ahead. All right. I just want to start here. This is hard. And it's hard. Everybody's dealing with it at some level. It's different than it was in the past. For younger listeners, it wasn't always like this. And here's why I think that is. Because in the Trump era, I think that there really a moral dimension to how we view politics has really developed. And there were some people who had very strong, deeply held views about politics throughout all of history, and there were moral elements to it. But kind of in the modern era, there was a period of time where you felt like your family or your friends, somebody might have bad ideas or mistaken views, and that was okay. It didn't necessarily mean that they were a bad person. You just disagreed. And that's gotten hard in the Trump years. And whether or not we want to admit it or say it, it is, a lot of us have kind of concluded that at some deep level, the people that we disagree with that went for Trump don't just have bad views, like they are bad at some level. And to get to a little therapy talk here, one of the things you go through when you're dealing with your own issues, as I have, is there's this difference in definition between guilt and shame, right? Guilt is this feeling that you have done something bad. Well, shame is this kind of sense that you are bad at some deep level. And this is kind of like the external version of that, right? Like rather than feeling like somebody made a bad choice, you're feeling like that there's something deeper there. And that kind of changes the relationship naturally. Like it changes how you view people. And I don't know that there's anything that I can say that will like fix that, right? Like you can't trick yourself into not thinking that. And so what I can say is this, is that fundamentally, like we all are sinners. We just are. Like we all have bad impulses, bad thoughts. We've all made bad actions. And writing off somebody you love over this fucking asshole that's going to be the president, like doesn't really serve you. Like, and it doesn't serve them, and it doesn't really serve anybody. It doesn't do anything of value. And it doesn't mean you have to let them off the hook or change your views about them, but it does mean that kind of reframing it in your head in the context of like that there are certain flaws that you look past in friends in your life, and other family members. It's not like everybody that voted for Kamala Harris is a fucking angel, but you rationalize it, right? You look past it. You look at the better, the good traits. I went through this when I was coming out with family that didn't react well to it, and I had determined that they, I was resentful and bitter, and like thought that and thought bad thoughts about them, and that didn't serve me. And I got past that. And it's been a lot healthier to get past it. I have close family right now that are going through the same Thanksgiving thing as these questioners, where they, how much or whether at all they see their close loved ones is being affected by their political support, and it makes me sad, and it is not the right approach, even though it might feel right. Because cutting people off over this, or blocking yourself off from them emotionally is just the worst of bad options. I want to caveat something here. I'm talking about actual loved ones. If you have an Uncle Rufus who's an asshole that you're never that close to, you can feel free to let Rufus go. But for brothers, for friends, for people that you're close to, my advice is not going to be that satisfying, but here it goes. Try to find other things to talk about. Reminisce. Talk about sports. Watch football. Ask them about some other part of their life. Get them talking. They've got to have other interests. Ask them about work. Ask them about their dating life. Ask them about whatever. Pick their brain. They have to have other things that they like to talk about. If your boomer dad or whoever it was and the questioner forces the conversation, having a little argument and then cooling off after, that's not the worst thing. Okay, that's fine. That all happens. I've been there. As long as you're not saying things that you're going to regret, having a little argument's okay. It's better than not engaging. You know what else is better than not engaging? Just sitting together and being together and eating and being a little bit more distant than you'd wish. That is melancholy for sure. That is not probably what you hoped for that relationship, and that is there's a disappointment there, there's a loss there, but still you're together, and the alternative is going to lead to regret, and you don't need to compound your torment by adding something you'll regret on top of it. One last thing, speaking from experience, less might be more when it comes to alcohol if things are really fraught. I know that there's a gag about how you're going to be home, you're going to be drinking, you're going to be having wine, going to deal with your family members. That might be right if it's like a low level disagreement and frustration. But if it's deep-seated disagreement and anger, less is more when it comes to alcohol. So, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy that. For all of you that are blessed to not have to deal with this, appreciate that blessing and savor it, because this stuff comes for all of us. My other question that I want to get to, which is very relevant for everybody right now. Do you have advice on how to develop a healthy media diet? I appreciated your conversation with Sam Harris and your reflection on your own Twitter obsession. I'm a fellow political obsessive with TDS, but I had to take a break after the election. I went cold turkey for a week and then I jumped back in. I wish I didn't have to, but as a concerned citizen, I have to devote some brain space to Donald Trump for the next 4 years. How do you recommend staying informed without going insane? Okay, for starters, you're listening to this podcast. That's great. I appreciate it. You don't have to. If you need a break from it, I get it. But by listening to a daily politics podcast, you're pretty up to speed on what's happening in politics already. Okay, I don't. There's not a whole lot you need to absolutely add on top of it. I would recommend newspapers and actual news as a supplement. There's certain things I'm not covering: policy stuff, local stuff, what's happening in your community. I'll look to my husband as a model. He's totally cut off social media, political social media, and replaced it only with Apple News. I don't really love the Apple News interface myself, but it works for him. Another option is picking a couple of newspapers supporting actual journalists that you like and reading their hard news outlet and not just reading opinion. I think that is useful. A newsletter might be right. for you. And I think that is a perfectly healthy balance. There's not necessarily a need to do that much more than that. I'm going to say this next thing with the caveat that I am an MSNBC political analyst. I appreciate the folks at MSNBC for supporting me. And as far as cable TV is concerned, if you like a show, great. I'm going to still go on Nicole Wallace twice a week. If you like Nicole Wallace and you feel like that's a good vessel for you to get info, watch Nicole Wallace. If you like Alex Wagner or Chris Hayes, or watch them. If you like Jake Tapper, he's great. Caitlin Collins, whatever. I don't know about that show on CNN where they do the panel where they're all yelling at each other. I only see the clips of like Scott Jennings yelling at random libs. I'm not sure that that's that nourishing to you. So I don't know if that would be the one that I would pick. The host of that, Abby Phillips, seems great, but the show format, not for me. But I'd say this about TV consumption, and it's related to the social media consumption. Passive consumption of this, having whatever the most recent horror is of Donald Trump just thrust upon your face, like kind of unwillingly, or as a second order thing while you're doing other stuff. It doesn't seem that healthy to me, and it seems like a lot of people do that. I like to have sound on in the house. I don't like silence. So I have records and music that I play, or sports. Some people have news just like kind of on in the background. And I think that's probably unhealthy for the next little bit. And part of it is JVL wrote about this in the Triad, just about a way to process Donald Trump that I'm trying to work on here on this podcast is to get upset about things that happen, to cover things that happen, not to wrap yourself around things that may happen or that he's threatening or that he's said or that he whatever. That might be a good rubric as well for focusing on things that are actually happening. That's what I'm going to try to do on this show. So unfortunately, I don't actually have the benefit of being able to take this advice that I'm giving everybody. So maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, but in order to do this show, do it well, like I need to consume things. It's my job. But put that burden on me, right? Let me listen to Steve Bannon and watch Fox when I'm in hotel rooms and suffer through social media to know what's happening out there. And I will filter it for you. And you'll get the stuff that you need to know, or that's funny. We can get a laugh out of them, or that's scary. And in the meantime, read things that are reported, and find other if there's somebody else, like I said, if there's another show, if there's a show that you like, consume that. And I think that's probably a good starting place for all this. So trusted sources, things that aren't inflaming you. This is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. And there's a big world out there. So go and enjoy it. Everybody, I've got one more podcast tomorrow before the Thanksgiving break. Very excited about that. There'll be much Pete Hegseth chat on tomorrow's podcast. You guys know how much I love talking about Pete Hegseth. So please come and hang out with me, especially if you're worried about hanging out with your family. I'll be here, and we'll see y'all back here tomorrow. Peace.